Good afternoon. My name's Colin Thompson. I'm Programme Leader for BA Fashion Studies here at the University of Derby. And with me I have Stephanie Rushton from Commercial Photography. She's Associate Senior Lecturer here at the University of Derby. So, Stephanie, we're about to embark on a collaborative project between fashion and commercial photography. I'm quite used to working with, within the discipline of fashion, textile design and fashion in a collaborative way, and there's integration already existing on the two programs or within the university within the two programs already. But this is the first time I think that we are stepping outside of the discipline, the specific disciplines. And I'd just like to know what your thoughts are with regards to the benefits in general for this type of collaboration between disciplines.
Well, one of the biggest benefits for us, especially for the students that are interested in the sort of fashion or advertising areas, is that they're often looking for people to bounce ideas off and with, so people to work with. Their biggest problem is finding clothes, models and real situations which they can bounce off and, you know, get creative with. That's the way the industry, the fashion industry works, is with real people working creatively and creating something magical from their collaborations. So in a sense it's offering them more of a real world situation rather than them having to create everything from scratch, which is quite difficult at that stage, really.
Yeah, I agree. Also, what I think is significant here is the fact that we're working on a live project and we have people coming in, we have a photographer and we have a designer who have been collaborating now, I think, for almost 14 years. And they'll be coming in to talk about what they're doing. But what I noted from that collaboration and what I picked up from conversations with the designer was that the fashion design process itself is something that's quite detailed and extensive. And having working with a photographer from the very beginning of the process can enrich the work of both parties.
Definitely.
So how do you think, what do you think the students are likely to get from that kind of exposure from a commercial photography point of view?
Absolutely massive. Basically, I think it's really good for them to see how long that creative process can take, that sort of preconception, the pre-visualization, the amount of research that goes into a fashion design collection. You know, be it sort of, you know, what's in the zeitgeist for them is a big part of the process, I believe. Watching film, current film, film that's released, you know, whatever things are in the ether at the time. I think these things do happen over a period of time, and it's good for our students to sort of see and pick up on that process and realise that they can give that amount of time to perhaps some images. I think sometimes they think they've got to come up with something in a few days, and these things do have a time to them, which adds to the end result, really. So that if they can learn from the fashion students how long that gestation period is taking, and that they can work with them at the mood board stage, at the casting stage, and just see how detailed that process is in terms of, okay, so we've got our idea. Let's say that's something that we've seen in a film that really excites the idea, and we're going to run with that. So then we cast, or we spend a couple of weeks looking around for a model that has the right look, rather than just spotting a girl in the street and thinking, oh, she'd be great for some photographs.
Right.
Which is kind of what can happen sometimes if you think, oh, I'm looking for someone with a 1940s face, you know, which this is how castings go for fashion shows and, you know, for designers, for campaigns and stuff, they'll look for weeks for the right model. So if students learn that that process can take a little bit longer and they don't just have to jump into the first situation they find themselves, then it will help the process, I think.
Yeah, and talking about processes and the lengths of processes, I do think that the fashion design creative process, if you like, has been within how it's been, in terms of how it's been embedded within curriculums, it's quite well organised now.
Yeah.
And we have a number of very strong courses that are running nationally, which are competing, and that's why I think we're trying to make inroads here at the University of Derby to push things outside of the curriculum proper on any given discipline. But what I'm interested in here is exposing also the fashion students to the creative process involved in generating image.
Yes.
Getting fashion students to think about image and how image also influences fashion, and then it's not just the wearing of fashion, but it's the kind of communication of image, and how image can be negotiated between fashion designer with a vision and the responsive vision of photographers, and also what goes on within photography itself, you know, within commercial photography.
How much can be done.
And exactly, and having a kind of two-way negotiation during that process, and maybe to even redefine the process. I mean, I'd love to see at the end of this that we can take something from this project that we can embed into the next academic year. That changes the process up a little bit, you know, because of the exposure that both sets of students have had.
That would be great. It would be a really good outcome. I'd not really looked at it before from the fashion student's perspective. Obviously, I'm looking at it from the photographer's perspective, but of course they can learn from each other how they can influence the photography by saying, you know, I like this type of lighting, but I don't know how to achieve it. Do you? Can you?
Exactly.
You know, so they can kind of learn from each other about the whole process, really. But I think the collaborations could take the students into the future as well. And if we can set that into our disciplines, then it's a kind of win-win situation, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Stephanie.
Pleasure.